Hey y'all, I've been thinking lately, what does it look like to cultivate a new humanity? Last week, in our message, Naomi talked about how the gospel creates this new humanity, where we kind of have to jump on board the Jesus plane in a sense. And she did a brilliant job unpacking that. But I've been wondering this week, what does it look like for us to cultivate a new humanity? And I feel we find something in Romans 8, verse 14 to 17. So I want to read that to you now. And this is what we read. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoptions as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God and fellow heirs with Christ, provided we suffer with him, in order that we may also be glorified with him. I love that verse, but I love the in bit where it talks about how we also participate in the glory of Christ, but we have to participate in the suffering as well. And I think participating in that suffering is how we cultivate this new humanity that gospel calls us to. And what I mean by that is, if we're going to suffer with Christ, it means we're going to have to follow the Jesus example. Where time and time again, Jesus put others first. He still took time out for himself. He still made sure he was all right, but he put others first. He looked out for the left out. He looked out for those who were climbing in trees because they couldn't get a spot in the crowd because they were so hated. Or those who went to collect water in the hottest part of the day just to avoid people. And consistently, Jesus lays down his power for others. And we have to follow that. We have to lay down our powers for others, which isn't a pleasant experience all the time. It involves some suffering. We also have to show love to others that don't deserve it. We have to follow the Jesus example that while he was suffering on the cross, he prayed for forgiveness for those that nailed him there. He showed love to those that were there in front of him. And we have to do the same. We have to suffer with him in that regard, to love people who don't deserve it sometimes. And we also have to have hope in the middle of a storm. Have hope of who God is, who Christ is. So when the storms come, we hold on to hope. We share that hope. We suffer in the storm, but we have hope that there's a better day tomorrow, that the sun's going to come out. And I think as we learn to participate in the suffering of Christ more and more, that's how we cultivate a new humanity. And that's a hard thing to do, church. But I hope you'll sit with God with what it looks like for you to suffer with Christ. What God might be calling you to do. Maybe some of the things God might be asking you to re-look at, to reassess, to dive deeper into, to connect with those that are outsiders, to hold space for people. These are all hard things to do at times. It involves a bit of suffering because we have to lay down ourselves and lay down our ego. And that's a hard thing to do. But it's key if we want to cultivate a new humanity like the gospel speaks about. And I hope that you'll join me in trying to cultivate this new kind of humanity that we read about throughout Scripture. but it's going to involve a little bit of suffering. We have to lean into what Christ might be calling us to suffer with him in. What he might be calling us to lay down. And I pray that you'll join me on that journey, church. May God's grace and peace be with you.